Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple.
The Potter era got off to a truly promising start with a 9-match unbeaten run that included 6 wins with 16 goals scored and 4 conceded. But recent matches have seen a sharp downturn in results, with only 1 win in the last 5 matches, seeing his side score just 3 times and concede 9, although admittedly with some tricky fixtures thrown in there. But in this topsy-turvy initial spell for Potter, what are the tactical changes he's been using to try and push Chelsea forward? And what is the gamble he's taken that hasn't quite paid off? In this video we take a look. And formationally, Potter has always been a hard man to pin down. And in fact, he said himself that formations are not the end goal, and he looks to adapt to an opponent's strengths and weaknesses depending on the game. So he's used at least 5 different baseline formations in his short tenure, with his favourites being the 3-4-3, 3-5-2 and occasional 4-2-3-1. So in 9 of his 14 matches, he has begun with a back 3. But even within these back 3s, the personnel has varied, although there have been a few regulars in the first 11. But even within these regulars, Mount has played as a winger and central midfielder, Sterling as a wing-back, winger and a centre-forward, Loftus-Cheek as a right wing-back and central midfielder, Cucurella as a wide centre-back and a dedicated wing-back. So, flexibility is extremely important to Potter, and he looks to use this flexibility to his advantage. When Chelsea are in possession, he can at times use traditional centre-backs either side of Thiago Silva, as well as traditional wing-backs out wide, which has the knock-on effect of allowing the likes of Pulisic, Mount and Sterling to operate in their preferred inside positions. Potter is also a possession-focused manager, so Edouard Mendy has seen his game time reduce greatly, as Kepa is much more adept with the ball at his feet. And for Potter, like many possession-oriented managers, the name of the game is numerical superiority around the ball. So using Kepa to start off with means that they have 4 around the ball to begin the play. And this can be in the shape of a diamond, with Silva being tasked to be the tip of the diamond, as his on-the-ball ability can be trusted, for the most part, as even he at times in these midfield positions, when on the ball, can struggle when pressed. But if Potter identifies one of the flanks of the opponent as a weak area, or generally wants to drag the opponent to one side in order to open up the other, a wide centre-back can tuck in, with the other moving into the full-back position, which can then allow them to try for a wide triangle or diamond to try and overload a 2-man wide defence. And when playing with the 3 in general open play, they will usually be able to overload most front lines and therefore be able to progress the ball. But on paper, there is the potential to be overloaded in the midfield as they only have a 2, although crafty midfielders like Jorginho and Kovacic do help to mitigate this. But Potter is aware of this, so when he plays with an attacking midfielder, it is often Mason Mount behind 2 forwards. So when the double pivot is struggling, he's not only happy to drop deep at times, but the shape can quickly shift to a dedicated flat midfield 3, helping to ease the load on the pivots. If instead it is a 3-4-3, it is normally 2 floaters in behind Aubameyang, either Mount and Havertz or Mount and Sterling, who will both now drop deeper into the midfield, creating a box and giving them a 4-man midfield that can outnumber almost any other. And Potter's love for having more numbers in the midfield when possible is also exemplified by his flirtation with the midfield diamond. This was perhaps best shown in his clash with Ten Hag's United, where initially he started off with a 2-man midfield. But United's midfield trio of Eriksen, Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes kept the ball away from Jorginho and Loftus-Cheek, and for a while, Chelsea looked lost, with their wing-backs being forced into deep defensive regions as a result. But Potter brought on Kovacic, and again tactical fluidity was demanded from his side, as the wing-backs became traditional full-backs, Mount became a midfielder, and Sterling now moved more central alongside Aubameyang. That change saw Chelsea's possession climb from 43% to 52%. But even with the back 3, Potter has again used a diamond at times. Again, the goal being to always have short passing options available at various angles around the ball. But the biggest criticism Potter's detractors have brought up is his use of wingbacks. As in more traditional situations, it's been James Azpilicueta, Cucurella and Chilwell. But Loftus-Cheek, Christian Pulisic and Raheem Sterling have all seen significant minutes in these positions. So why does Potter do this, and why has it not worked on so many occasions? Well, it all comes down to his original quote about how he views formations. Potter, as much as possible, likes to attack in either a 3-1-6 on rarer occasions, but more commonly in a 3-2-5. So when Chelsea are on the ball in this settled shape, It means that the wide men are in 1 versus 1 situation. So when Potter starts with the likes of Sterling and Pulisic in these interior positions, it is up to the traditional wing-backs to then provide the width, where we have seen both are capable in possession. But having more traditional wingers out wide allows him to have his best 1 versus 1 dribblers against the opposition fullbacks. So they can not only go at their man to cause danger, but they also still have the ability to cross. It also means the likes of Havertz and more pertinently Mount are in these inside positions where they can more naturally be creative. But again, flexibility is a big desire for Potter, and often he has used James, Azpilicueta or Cucurella as the wide centre back. All three can play there, but all three can also play in the natural fullback position. So we can see them overlap when Chelsea do have controlled possession, allowing the likes of Mount to then drop into the midfield as the wingers would now have tucked in. We see this especially when Loftus-Cheek starts as a wing-back, as the overlapping centre-back can allow him into his much more preferred central regions, either high up the pitch or deep. So when he has traditional wing-backs, it firstly fixes the interior into this position, and the likes of Sterling are less likely to want to drop into the midfield, and more traditional centre-backs are even less likely to want to overlap from these positions, leading to a potentially more static formation. But a big assumption of this formation, particularly when using non-traditional wingers and or non-traditional centre-backs, is that Chelsea, using Potter's style, will dominate the ball, meaning that more often than not, the wingers on paper will be just that on the pitch, wingers. But in all competitions under Tuchel this season, Chelsea averaged 63% possession according to FBref. But under Potter, that number has now dipped to 56%. Meaning they're spending more time defending than they would want, with these players potentially out of position. When looking at their 4 losses under Potter, that average possession dips even lower to just 50%. And in those 4 losses, he has used wingbacks in 3 matches, meaning 6 wingback slots across the 3 matches. And Pulisic and Sterling have taken up the slot once each, with the other 4 being left to Loftus-Cheek, who is not a wingback, and young Lewis Hall, who even in his Premier League 2 days has played in central midfield, left midfield and wingback, and is still searching for his position, so not exactly a specialist. So naturally, when the Chelsea game isn't clicking, they can look vulnerable down the flanks, but for now it seems like it's a risk Potter is willing to take. Having had a nice sort of trial period with the squad before the World Cup, and then the chance to reassess during the World Cup, it is far too early to write Potter off. And he might be thanking his lucky stars it is no longer Abramovich in charge. But after many years of being a promising manager, Potter is now quickly getting to know the pressures of the big leagues. But Chelsea fans will be hoping he can still work a bit of magic. But what have you made of the Potter era? Drop it down below.
I hope you enjoyed this video, and if you did, you might enjoy the content available on my Patreon. Not only does Patreon help to support the continued production of content, as I am a one-man team, but it also gives you early access to videos that will come on the channel. You'll also get exclusive videos, get to vote on polls, and so much more. And it's cheaper than ever, no longer having a tier system, so everyone on the Patreon gets access to all the content. So head over to patreon.com/footballmadesimple to check it out.
And a special thanks to my latest patrons, including Ejiro Oyutso, Ondrej Bar, and Gabriel Israel.
But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.